Yeah, I don't know, man. You ever just feel like life is just catapulting towards some greater purpose?
Pampered fat cats with bloated ego. We are the only DJ crazy enough to tattoo Jackie Brown on his ass.
This is Michael Mann, and I ride with Extended.
I was at work the other day, and this guy I was working with was talking about like his son's cars, because his sons have these like expensive cars that he drives to work because his sons are, you know, like my age. They're like in their 30s. Mm-hmm. I think late 20s, early 30s. And they make a decent amount of money, but they live at home. And so they all have like brand new cars. And the coworker of mine, I guess part of the deal is that like he can drive any of their cars.
Yeah.
So he's like pulling up in like a Subaru Xterra or whatever, WRX, or a brand new Durango or something like that.
Some new nice shit.
Yeah, and he was talking about how much it cost or whatever, and our coworker, who was like the security guard on duty, just goes, "Man, that's a bad investment. That's just a waste of money. You know, those cars depreciate the second you drive them off the lot." And then he taps on his watch, which I don't know much about watches, but it looks fairly inexpensive.
Yeah.
He's like, "You got to invest in gold."
Damn. Flexing the watch is the cherry on top of that. You know, not
Yeah.
even just like, see this? This is what.
That's a real investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then he started talking about the stock market, and I actually just had to walk away because I wasn't going to be able to listen to this guy who's, you know, I hate to say, you know, everyone has their ups and downs in life, but these two gentlemen are much older than me, making, you know, like myself, minimum wage or damn near close to it. Not really taking, you know, financial advice from them. I'll take other kind of advice.
Well, their sons are cleaning up, you know what I mean? So
they though?
He sacrificed it all for his son.
Because if I didn't have to pay rent, you know, like you can put it down, you could save up, put it down on a car and pay car payments as if they were rent if you're living rent free.
True.
That's like cheaper. It's much cheaper to buy a fucking Dodge Durango than an apartment in Silver Lake.
No, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't take, you know, financial advice, but at the same time, I'm so financially illiterate that I in that situation, I'd be like, I just agree with both of them. Be like, that's true. You both bring up good points.
Financially illiterate is a good way to put it. I'm like, as far as the
investments,
if we're comparing books to knowing about money, you know, like, because with real books, you know, I'm at the level of I've read some of the classics, you know, I've read a decent amount of postmodern literature. As far as economics go, I'm at like the letter J in the alphabet, you know,
J?
like I haven't gotten to any words yet or books, let alone pictures or anything like that. But like learning the alphabet, I'm at like J.
You're halfway there. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. Welcome to Extended Clip. And I'm one of your hosts, Eddie Averill.
I'm Malcolm Baum.
I'm Dr. T.
Oh.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, when you hear those beautiful bass strings composed and arranged by Lyle Lovett beneath our voices, you know that we are talking about the one, the only, Dr. Sullivan Travis, a.k.a. Dr. T, the protagonist, and maybe even the true auteur of Robert Altman's Dr. T and the Woman, his 2000 film that we talked about 5 years ago, I want to say, on this podcast, on a double feature with a very unsavory topic that we won't mention. But this is a film that has like loomed large over the lore of the podcast. You know, it's a movie that we all liked when we watched it. We all thought it was a really good movie, good to great. I think we all went 3.5 to 4 on it, you know. But then like Malcolm just started sending stuff from the Dr. T DVD bonus features to our group chat of Robert Altman saying,
Dr. T loves women. He truly loves women.
And it just kind of became like a recurring thing that we couldn't escape. And then the film also just started to like grow in stature to me too. And as more of our friends were catching on through what started as kind of just like a goof, you know, a tradition was born of the cult of Dr. T and the Women that has been established through online cinephiles over the years. We've been vindicated by the likes of Jean-Marie Straub, who called it, I think, a wonderful and funny film or something along those lines. Nice. There's definitely some highbrow critics that love it. To be completely serious, I'm not being ironic or anything like that. Like, it's a fun thing to goof around and post about on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's also a genuinely great movie, and I think it's the closest, not just in terms of quality, but like in terms of the aesthetic approach, it's the closest that Altman comes to his 70s style after the 70s. I think he made better movies than this after the 70s, that were trying different things. But this film really emulates that signature 70s style in a way that not much of his late work does. And I really love that. And it has that like really chaotic, zany feeling of something like Brewster McCloud, even more than, Nashville or whatever. And I mean, hey, Brewster McCloud, a fellow Texas movie. But regardless, the mythos of Dr. T as a character and a figure and a mascot of the podcast, as well as the film itself, have just like really burrowed themselves into my brain so deeply over the last 5 years that we had to bring them back.
Yeah, we had to, unravel the myth. That was kind of like a meme thing a few years ago. A lot of people accused it of like, oh, you're being like ironically praising the movie because, and I guess that's where it comes from. It's because a lot of people regard it as maybe one of Altman's worst movies.
It still has quite a low average on Letterboxd.
Yeah, and like the milieu, kind of the suburban middle to upper middle class Dallas milieu. It's not, maybe not the most enticing thing on paper. It's a little bit boring, although of course the movie addresses that and kind of works with that, I feel.
Yeah.
The main thing is just I've always loved the poster, the Dr. T and the woman poster, and the pose that JT is recreating for me. That kind of just gave me, just seeing JT hit the Dr. T pose gives me a serene feeling that, Dr. T kind of feels when his daughter's wedding is disrupted, and just all of those things. It just seemed like it would be fun to champion this movie that on paper kind of seems like, I don't know, maybe not the most appealing, but I think the movie definitely knows that and kind of like plays into it, and it's definitely like a satire of sorts.
Absolutely. I mean, all of those 70s movies are all about indulging in those milieus in such a realistic way, with those overlapping dialogues and roving cameras and the way the films are edited and everything. And so, yeah, obviously this is not as appealing as, let's say, Elliot Gould, going through both counterculture and the seedy crime underbelly of LA, during that era, or the music scene in Nashville being, well, actually the music scene in Nashville is like very tacky and lame. Like, Altman has these people doing like some kind of bad songs at some points, tongue in cheek, and I think maybe that's even a decent comparison point for this. But regardless of all of that, JT, are you feeling today, as Malcolm once described the pose that Richard Gere strikes on the poster, blessed and confused?
Yeah, well, maybe a little bit less confused than I was when we first encountered our good friend Dr. T, because I will take somewhat of responsibility. I had proposed the initial double feature with who could remember what the linkage between those films was. There are just two angles to it where I think that, like, because it is sort of a weird thing, it's something you want to champion, and it is like funny to just sort of like talk about in concept alone. But then it's actually like a very like sensitive and legitimately like thought out version of that premise that does. I agree with what Eddie was saying there, where it feels like some of Altman's like 70s work in terms of like style and approach, but it is, I don't know, I think when I think of like bigger Altman stuff, I'm thinking of more ensemble pieces. Like obviously there's some things like in his like canon films, like the Long Goodbye, that stand out as kind of having like a singular protagonist like this. But Dr. T feels odd in that sense. And again, just even the milieu itself feels like, okay, well, why is Altman going here? But I think it is like something that winds up being like a very funny, like kind of light satire of this social world that Dr. T occupies. And I think like it gets at the revelation of the Dr. T pose of like accepting, like, because Dr. T loves women, but does he understand them? Is he doing his best in the beginning of the film to truly know them? And that's knowing them with their flaws and as like complete people. And that I feel like kind of happens throughout the film, that Dr. T has to kind of deal with the reality of that situation. And it gives him this kind of like peace that admittedly is like, it's a very Zen kind of thing of Dr. T, like his world getting like sort of torn apart, but like he grows to embrace the confusion. And I feel like it's a perfect, like, I don't know who, it's just something that like this time around, like I really appreciate that like approach to life in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is why that pose is on the poster. It embodies the entire like ethos of the movie almost in a certain way. And for those who don't know, because now I realize we're like, about 15 minutes into this podcast, there's probably some people listening to this who don't know what Dr. T and the Women is about.
I just would have assumed everyone's seen this movie by now.
Yeah,
It's
right.
talked about.
This is a film about a gynecologist named Dr. Sullivan Travis and the women who form the solar system around him, whether they be his clients or his coworkers or his family or his wife or eventually a new romantic suitor after the inciting incident of the film sees his wife, played by Farrah Fawcett, put in a mental institution. So we are like getting all of these different tastes of things that Altman has done over the years. Like JT said, his penchant for ensembles is one of the things he's really known for. And obviously this film has one character at the center, but it's still very much an ensemble film. This has a plethora of people in it. It just happens to also have Dr. T in almost every single scene. But also I was thinking about it too, and like, I always thought about Altman as like the ensemble guy too. It's really only a handful of his movies. I would say more of his movies have like a singular character or two or three at the forefront. But because of how masterfully he executes Nashville and MASH, like movies like that really embody like the ensemble film for all it can be. But we also have talked about films like Three Women on this podcast. And then Brewster McCloud kind of takes this model where it's like an ensemble film centered around a protagonist,
Yeah.
And so I think that's when he's really in like the sweet spot, I guess. Or at least that's a mode that I really enjoy him in, because I enjoy Altman in so many different modes. So as I said, Farrah Fawcett, she strips nude in a shopping center at the epicenter of a nervous breakdown while, setting up the wedding registry for her daughter at a shopping center. And then Dr. T, his workload starts to slowly get amplified. Things start to, go a little haywire in his life as he meets this great new woman who's the golf pro at the local country club. And then his daughter's upcoming wedding seems to have a hitch in it, as her daughter has been exposed by one of her other or one of his other daughters as being a lesbian.
Yeah. Dr. T loves women so much, you're starting to refer to him as her, because he's
Look, Dr. T is, beyond pronouns.
Yeah.
He,
come to watch this movie. I've seen on social media the topic of male gynecologists come up, and it's like, I feel like I've seen like viral tweets seemingly by like a woman being like, why would you ever have like a male gynecologist? That is kind of like the seedling of humor in this movie, where like obviously that is like a profession a lot of people have, but it is just like, oh yeah, Dr. T really knows women. He's a male gynecologist. He really knows he's seeing women every day, and he's getting to know everything about them. And he kind of it's seeming at the beginning of the movie, he seems to have like really good relationships with these women. Like he knows them personally and will talk to them on a kind of a personal level, even giving them some motivation. Sometimes there's that great menopausal motivation scene where
oh my god, that's so fucking funny. Just
Kurt.
cheering after her being like, I am gonna take a strong approach to like addressing menopause, and the whole gynecological office is rooting for her.
yeah.
well, what he does is, just through sheer positivity and being sexiest man alive, Richard Gere, through that charisma and obviously his gentle prowess with the speculum or whatever the tools are called. I don't know. I forget already. He like makes these women feel like the best, they see the best version of themselves in him, because he's this like demigod, in the white coat and everything with the overlighting, and he's just like touching all these women and healing them and everything. And it's almost like the male version and like the aromantic male version of Cameron Diaz and There's Something About Mary, where by the end of that movie you see that she has like 6 guys in a room with her who are all like basically having convinced themselves that the only way they can live proper is with Mary by their side, and all these women feel this way about their gynecologist, which is a hilarious conceit. I don't know anything about gynecology, so I don't know if that's funny to a woman. To me, it's very funny.
A couple things.
I,
It's not like you don't know anything. You know what like area of what gynecology,
no, I know that. I'm saying that I don't know.
the ins and outs. Yeah.
Well, he might know the ins and outs.
All right, guys. This is turning into that first episode.
What's funny about that too, it's it's not only his relationship with women, but like amongst his like male friend group, they kind of like look to him as like a bastion of wisdom when
And
it
their
comes to
wives
women.
are all his patients too.
So yeah, and
Like the one who gives that big speech, she's Andy Richter's wife, and later on is like offended by something that happens, and Andy Richter's like, we could still go duck hunting, it's cool. But also their like duck hunting setup is hilarious. They're like, instead of doing those kind of things where you launch like clay pigeons or whatever kind of disc targets into the air, Dr. T's just got his fucking loft wedge, just fucking soaring golf balls up into the air for people to shoot, for his buddies to shoot. And I've never seen that approach to target practice before, but I found that to be a very cool way to introduce his golf prowess, to where later on it's only natural that he can, keep up with the female tour pro who's now going to work at the country club.
Yeah, and it's funny how like empty these interactions with the male friends are. And it's just they just seem so
They seem
kind
like
of airheaded, and like he kind of gets to hold court as he kind of speaks his like philosophy about women, and how JT was kind of getting at earlier. It's a woman can do no wrong, only a man can corrupt them, and kind of giving it is just funny how established that it's like Dr. T is the woman expert. He's got philosophy, he's got the profession, and he kind of just moves with this kind of this over positive vision that kind of blocks the actual reality of things that are going on. And it is just funny how, and like it's kind of like the last hangout scene, like Dr. T just like he's just zoning out because he's got a lot of issues going on, so he's thinking about that. But you could just tell that, you know, Dr. T, he doesn't value the male friendship aspect so much. And I don't know, I just think that's satirized in a funny way, because I feel like if you look at a lot of the reviews of this movie at the time, a lot of people accuse this movie of kind of being misogynist, and, you know, maybe there's some aspects, but it is like as kind of as wacky as some of the situations in the gynecologist office can get sometimes. Like the men are just kind of like just dumb as fuck. Like they're
no, it
reduced to
seems like a
being even
fake
worse.
sitcom. Like anytime more than one man is on screen at the same time, it feels like you're watching like a sketch comedy version of a sitcom, or like a fake beer commercial or something.
Totally.
Especially the way they're drinking beers in that first target practice scene. It really feels like Altman is shooting a fake beer commercial. And Altman's like cynicism runs through the humor of this movie throughout the whole thing in that regard. You know, one of Dr. T's clients is trying to put through something in city council to get a freeway renamed after a woman, because there's no women named freeways in Dallas, and it's like you know, between Jane Mansfield and
Mary Kay.
I was gonna say, it shows how sexist I am, some former Dallas mayor who was a woman, and, you know, I don't know, the way that the guy at the council meeting reacts to that proposition is so funny. Where he's just like, it's not even a question, it's Jane Mansfield.
Yeah, no, there are so many great lines of male stupidity dropped. Like, I think Andy Richter in the second hunting scene, like, I think it's Dr. T talking to him. It might be about his own wife and being like, "Oh, well, like the haircut's like looks really good on her or whatever." And he's like, "Oh, you meant the hair on her head." Like, he's confused for a beat. Like, on top of that, I think it's also just strange because it's something that still I feel like you don't really see all that much in a movie. And even like back, like, I don't know, in the 90s, I feel like it must have been even odder. Save for like like movies that I feel like are targeted to women and female audiences in particular. There are just so many times that like Richard Gere is in like a swarm of women on screen and there are just like no men around. And I feel like that's something that just still like, I don't know, makes it like a weird like curio. It's just like, I don't know, at any given time in this movie, the frame is just filled with like entirely women and then maybe Gere too. It's just very unusual.
Maybe that's, you know, misogyny of film critics. They couldn't handle that many women on screen at once. Yeah. They're like, this movie stinks. Where's the fellas, you know? I don't like Andy Richter. That's some fucking alpha you're giving me. Yeah, Andy Richter. All right. You know, then I got to watch all these women. By the way, I'm impersonating a newspaper critic in whatever city you, listener, live in.
There's that great kind of opening scene at the gynecologist's office where, you know, you see Dr. T, but you mostly just see like this huge office, which also it's just, I find it fun. I'm like, damn, there's like 50 women in it. They're pretty fucking
that opening
slammed.
Scene is amazing.
They need another gynecologist there. I think Dr. T's got too heavy of a load there. But it is how it kind of just starts as like busy, and then as like the camera kind of travels around, like you could just really see how slammed this place is, and it just gets more and more hectic. And there's something very particular about this movie where there's like, it kind of has like a relaxed pace in terms of like the story in a sense, or like, I don't know, there's much more of a willingness to kind of just like kind of soak in an area and kind of take that in, rather than like trying to move the plot points along at like a swift pace. So it's kind of like, it almost feels kind of like slow in that regard, but there's always kind of, I don't know, these just crazy kind of overpopulated scenes going on, whether it's like at the shopping mall, gynecologist's office, or the cheerleading practice. So it kind of has like this weird mix of like casualness and then also kind of like dissonance as well, that I don't know, I even like that's something that's in kind of some of the Robert Altman movies we've mentioned, but I don't know. I feel that dissonance more so in some of these scenes than, I don't know, some of his other movies even.
Well, I think that this movie, the more uncomfortable, dissonant, less easygoing scenes in it, I think they're accentuated by the kind of beer commercial vibes of some scenes, of course. But yeah, I mean, it is reminiscent of Three Women, the way he treats the mental illness of the Farrah Fawcett character, of course. But yeah, no, I mean, the way it slowly builds tension is pretty singular within his filmography. That opening scene, the opening credits, that is kind of the film in microcosm, where it's just this like slow build toward chaos, and then we're out of the chaos and Dr. T comically appears from between a woman's legs that are in a stirrup, and it's just like perfect. The women we haven't totally broken down yet. We have Helen Hunt as the new local golf pro, Farrah Fawcett, I mentioned. So his sister Laura Dern, and then Shelley Long is like his number one at the gynecology office, his right hand nurse or whatever. And then his daughters Tara Reid and Kate Hudson, and of course his daughter's secret girlfriend played by Liv Tyler. And when you got a stacked roster like that, how are you gonna fit all those women into 120 minutes? It takes a master like Robert Altman to balance an ensemble like that, and I think he does. I think it feels very chaotic at first, like when you're at the mall for the nervous breakdown, and it's like, the first time you watched it, at least, it's like, who are we even about to focus on here? Like, Laura Dern's she seems to be carrying the scene with the weird hat and drinking all the champagne at the mall, and then like the daughter's a nervous wreck while they're picking the stuff out, and then it's just like slowly Altman will cut away from the dialogue to show you that Farrah Fawcett is wandering and wandering and wandering. And the way that Altman kind of expands the space of scenes through editing, despite often shooting in these like wide roving long lens takes, is just astonishing. It's like what he was doing in the 70s, but expanded further after this period of slightly more traditional form in the 90s, Like in the 90s, he has some show-off stuff, obviously, like the opening take of The Player comes to mind, but a lot of the stuff is like, it's very artfully shot. He never falls into coverage, but he's not taking that approach of the 70s where it feels like he just has cameras on the edges of the soundstage, drifting along, shooting these long zoom lens shots. And I don't know. I feel like him going back to that here, he's been like rejuvenated by the way he shot televised plays in the 80s, the way he shot those more commercially successful films in the 90s, and it's just like an absolute late style classic.
Yeah, I think something this time around that I was really able to like tap into was like how funny some of the specificity of like character and setting is with the women, because I feel like you only get like brief snippets of like to gain like a full understanding, and you can certainly miss some things, but like this time around, like I don't know, there like the flavor of like Dallas is also like very like heavily involved in it in a way that I had like completely forgotten about. Like I love the like Tara Reid daughter is like a conspiracy theorist who's doing like Kennedy assassination tours, and like some point where she's talking to Dee Dee, the Kate husband daughter that's like getting married, it will like cut to like Dee Dee is like a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader like alternate. Yeah. And so like it's just funny, all of that stuff that is like backgrounded, and I think like makes like, I don't know, just conventional scenes, because there's a lot of stuff like with like characters just on the phone, particularly the women in this, because they're in like
They always do be talking on the phone.
Yeah, they're all doing their own like exciting lives or whatnot. But like what's like sort of bursting at the seams here is just like the crazy lives that, again, like have such a rich like specificity to these unique women, and like again are so like, I don't know, focused on like upper middle class like Dallas life.
The locations and like what they do, you're right, like it really reflects Dallas, where, you know, I've never been to Dallas, but it is like, you know, we got the big office, you know, in this case it's a medical office. We got the shopping mall. We got JFK assassination, the grassy knoll or whatever that place is called. That'd be pretty bold if they had a conspiracy museum right next to the grassy knoll. I wonder if that's a real thing or not.
Well, it's not really a museum. It's like she's just giving guided tours out there.
Yeah.
But the museum is right there. Like when I went to Dallas, I gave myself a walking tour, but then went to the location. I went to the book depository where they have the museum about the assassination there. And yeah, it did cover all the grounds. You know, I went there. I did the Dr. T tour. I did that. And the site of the wedding is the Dallas, and forgive me if I say this wrong, the Arboretum, like a botanical garden, you know,
so
something like that.
You went to the...
I went to the Dallas Arboretum, the site of the wedding, yeah.
Did you hit the Dr. T pose at the...
I did not. I was by myself, and that would have been a little weird.
The Dr. T celly is going to be huge this NBA season.
Damn, just Cooper Flagg hitting a dunk and then just hitting the Dr. T. You know, he would win my heart immediately. I'd root for them.
JT, I think you have the best chance at catching the eye of an NBA player. I think you gotta make stickers of the Dr. T pose and start putting them on like everywhere you think a Sixer might be. You know?
Yeah. Well, I know where their practice facility is in the city. I just need to start going by there and hitting the Dr. T as much as possible.
Just playing at a hoop right next to them and just celebrating after you hit shots.
Because it's like, wouldn't that be awesome if like that you hit a three, like turn, or you like throw the shot and then you turn around and you hit the T pose and it goes in.
I mean, it might even be, you know, I love basketball, but it might even be a better football celebration. You know,
or even baseball, a bat flip into a Dr. T.
To be honest, it fits anywhere. Any sport, it works. It works.
Soccer's great too. Run up on it after the goal. All your teammates do it with you. You know.
Let's be honest. We just like the movie because that pose just rules so hard. We do like all these other reasons.
Best movie poster of all time. Like him with that pose with the silhouettes of all the women on the very top, like as if the women represent the storm cloud. You know.
And in a sense, they do.
Exactly. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Shelley Long as his right-hand woman is so funny in this movie and so charming, and it's really a shame what happened to her career because, like, you know, she leaves Cheers after 5 seasons, and it's to focus on movies, and she has every right to. She was the best part of that show. Actually, sorry. Norm, you know, got to give it up. R.I.P. George.
She was one of the best parts of that show.
She was a top 2 character on Cheers, I would say, when she was on it. And she leaves to pursue movies as she has a right to, I think. And she did like The Money Pit and like then a bunch of just like stinker flops, like just a bunch of shitty movies. And I don't know if it's on her management, her agent, you know. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but like I was looking through the filmography and it's like there's a couple things that are interesting. There's one that Frank Perry made, the guy who did The Swimmer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, 30 years after The Swimmer. It's like a mid-90s movie that he made with her toward the end of his career. So I'm interested in that one, but other than it's like that and Dr. T and the Women. And I don't get it because I think she kind of is the woman MVP of this movie. Obviously Dr. T is the MVP of the movie, but of the women, I think she gives my favorite performance.
Totally. I could definitely see that because a lot of the performances in this Dr. T with Richard Gere, he kind of is almost like acting as like a symbol, and it's kind of like riffing off of the iconography of Gere himself. And some of the other actors there, they get to act quirky, but I guess maybe since it's so grounded within this like the chaos of the gynecologist office, like in a way it kind of feels like the most traditional performance, because we don't really get those scenes like you get with like Kate Hudson and Tara Reid, where we get like 5 to 10 minutes with them and we kind of get to do like the roving camera stuff that Dr. T's experiencing. So, and it's just a really fun performance. And that scene where she gives him the massage when she tries to make a move on Dr. T, like that's just a classic
comedy of embarrassment. And
also
what I was thinking with her character, kind of the juxtaposition between her and Helen Hunt's character, it really reminded me of what his 70s films were really all about, which was reinventing American genre cinema with all of the new freedoms that new Hollywood granted him. You could be a lot more obscure in your plotting. You could be a lot more aesthetically challenging and therefore aesthetically rewarding in the case of Robert Altman, and there's more risks to take, and you could be a little more raunchy as well, and you could go against the grain in terms of like popular ideology, and you can indulge in irony more, all these things that he did in the 70s and applied them to genres like the Western with McCabe and Mrs. Miller, the noir with The Long Goodbye, the war picture with MASH. We've been through this before on this podcast, but for those who haven't heard that spiel before, then you flash forward to the 90s, the late 90s, when this project is being developed and it eventually comes out in 2000. It's kind of like reinventing the romantic comedy, which has already been reinvented like 5 times. So, it's kind of poo-pooing all of the quote-unquote reinventions of it, despite the fact that Richard Gere is an emblem of that, with Pretty Woman, of course. And I feel like Altman is just reaching back to the classic Hollywood era the way he did in the 70s, because that's what was recent back then. He's like, oh, well, how we've always had genre movies, I'm going to do them like this now. And I feel like he just skips time almost and just like picks out little bits of things that he liked in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. But for the most part, is kind of just channeling into what he was doing in that new Hollywood era. And Shelley Long and Helen Hunt, to me, represent a dichotomy of screwball rom-com types, like Shelley Long is the ditzy one, obviously, but she's more screwy, as it were, and Helen Hunt is like Katharine Hepburn in Bringing Up Baby. Obviously, the golf is a clear illusion there, but the fact that she is the very aggressive one sexually and is like one-upping Dr. T at golf, and like, screw going to a fancy restaurant, let's go to my place, and she's like grilling up steaks by herself and showing her nude body to him on quote-unquote accident. Like, she's very forward and aggressive and making him question his masculinity. And I think that the kind of zany antics of this movie are all calling back to that 30s and 40s style of the romantic comedy, and really the use of the new freedoms of a lack of censorship are like, well, I guess I'll make it dirty. How do I make it dirty? Oh, it's a rom-com about a pussy doctor. And, I just love that as like an Altman being a dirty old man making this like not even really a sex comedy, because it's not like Dr. T is, fucking his patients or anything like that. That line is very clearly drawn there. He's just a man who also, he loves women in more ways than one, but not the same women. And I just find it to be such a hilarious, as I said, dirty old man film, as like a dirty old man looking back at films about getting laid from when he was growing up that were so quaint and censored, and just applying all that he's learned in the meantime to them.
I just think it's all this stuff like coupled with like a lot of like artful subversions of like the rom-com genre. I like what
Yeah.
you're saying about like picking out like little bits and pieces of things he likes, especially like with like the Shelley Long character. I think is great in terms of showing how little Dr. T actually understands some of the women he loves. Like for the most part, he feels like completely oblivious to like his her intense infatuation with him. So much so, like there's that amazing point where she gives him a massage, and like it is the least sexual thing in his mind, and he's closing his eyes, completely unaware of the fact that she's like stripping naked. And I think ultimately one of the best like subversions of expectation in the entire film is like kind of how the whole Helen Hunt escapade wraps up, because you think like, okay, this wedding like finally collapses, like the tension there is released, and he is going to Bree the golfer, and he's like, let's run away together. Like this, he's learning to like on a very surface level embrace the chaos. And he's like, let's run away together, and is making all of these like crazy like kind of rom-com propositions that a more conventional movie, I think the Hunt character goes along with it. But because I think she is a real like fully like realized character, it's an obvious no from her. She has a life.
Yeah.
She can't just fucking like dip out and like do whatever. And that is another reason that shows like Dr. T's like misunderstanding and unawareness of what like the women in his life actually want. And I think like that, like again, like sort of teasing at the idea of like having this kind of more conventional rom-com ending to go into the ending that it actually gives you, that is like crazy and unexpected, but also just like very tender and tranquil. I think it's so hard to like hit all of these different points and juggle these tones, and I think it's such an impressive movie that it can do that.
I feel like with the sequence where he goes to Helen Hunt to after the wedding to say let's run away together. I feel like that's this time I realized I feel like that has to be riffing off of Bridges of Madison County, and that's not the only rom-com to do the romantic rain stuff.
Yeah, of course,
for sure. But it I love him like driving away in the just married convertible in the rain, and like given this dramatic speech to her only for it to be rejected, and then when he gets back in the car, that romantic rain is rendered as like hellish, and it becomes like a hailstorm, and he eventually gets sucked up into a hurricane. And like all that stuff with Helen Hunt is really good. I feel like I wanted to mention before, I feel like the golf stuff too, like the golf is so idyllic, and like just thinking of Dallas, it's like that might be the most scenic thing to do in Dallas. Like I don't
play golf.
It's like I don't know Dallas
it's definitely
geography.
the most greenery you're going to see anywhere. Yeah,
because like that's kind
Dallas
of like
sucks. Sorry to any listeners in Dallas. I've been. It's awful.
I feel
The
like-
arboretum, the golf courses in the arboretum. That's the most greenery you'll see for sure.
And that's like I feel like it is a commentary on kind of like the not so greatness of Dallas, like given the kind of locations we're in. Like I feel like everything, like all these places I mentioned, like they all have like a grayness to them in a sense, and that's kind of like the general look of Dallas. And so that it kind of that's it walks a very fine line, because it is satirizing these people in this place, but at the same time gives them enough agency and arc to kind of respect them, the characters, kind of as people, but also kind of is like Dr. T needs to get out of Dallas. That's the conclusion Altman comes. You need to escape all this kind of suburban mania that you encounter every day at the office, and you need to reinvent yourself in a foreign land, away from all this kind of just it's a very white movie, like every character is white, and I feel like it is kind of very purposely he ends up in kind of like in a non-white space at the very end, and he's kind of like he delivers the baby, that Altman shows to us in a very medically correct way. We see the full delivery of the baby, and I don't know, it is just funny, like imagining someone who's like completely out on this movie, and then right at the very end he's just making you witness like a live birth. And he's just like, wait, what the? Because the ending is like it is I feel like that definitely woke some people up, you know what I mean? Or maybe even some people kind of, I don't know, just trying to consume it as like a normal rom-com, not really like maybe soaking up some of the irony that he's laying down. Just like that ending kind of, I don't know, leaves no doubt in my mind what he's trying to achieve here.
Yeah, I mean, the ending, and also we're talking about it as if everyone's seen it before, which I guess everyone listening to this
I kind of
has,
described it a little bit.
He
He gets caught up in the hurricane. Okay, go.
But no, so there's this surreal sequence after that rejection, where he gets caught up in a hurricane and his car is flung into a deserted small village in Mexico. And here's the thing. His wife, Farrah Fawcett, what she was diagnosed with was basically just like upper class housewife syndrome.
He loved her too much. That was how she received her sickness.
And it's, the sickness of everything having been taken care of. And so it's just that like upper class ennui, setting in and turning into mental illness. And it's funny because that's exactly, what he is going through as well. These are all high class problems. And, if you are so lucky, you can spend all of your time in Dallas at country clubs where there's beautiful vistas everywhere. But not everyone in Dallas is afforded those luxuries, and the town might look a lot more ugly to those people who aren't afforded such luxuries. But his name is fucking Sullivan's Travels, like that is a classic screwball movie by Preston Sturges, of course, about an upper class, Hollywood elite screenwriter who has to go through the journey of, going into the heart of darkness, as it were, of poverty in America, and like living as a hobo, as an old-timey rail rider, as it were. And that is how he's gonna, come back to Hollywood and write a genius script. And what he learns along the way is, people just like to laugh and have fun. And this movie doesn't exactly have that message, but it does have a similar approach at the end here, where I think Dr. T is sent to Mexico to get away from this white upper class milieu and basically just, deliver babies in this Mexican village for a while as a means of spiritual cleansing. Because despite the fact that he hasn't necessarily done anything wrong, he represents something that is wrong. And I find that to be like a really powerful ending. And obviously, the impact of watching a live childbirth is like, maybe you have a higher tolerance for these things than me, but it really impacts me every time I watch this movie. Both on like a squeamish level and like a kind of beautiful level. Also cutting from the actual, baby's head coming out of a vagina to Richard Gere going mas is just like, Altman has to know that's funny. He's one of the most hilarious directors of all time, in my opinion, and especially in like a subtle way where he can always just have kind of a background joke or an aside that's very funny. The cruel irony of fate in this movie is just beautiful and so funny. And I find this movie to be so dense and so beautiful to look at. As I said, It's really emulating that 70s style. For a long time, this was only available on like VHS, and then the first DVD I think was cropped to like 16:9, not even showing the full scope ratio. I remember Amazon had it in 16:9 for a long time. I believe they've since fixed that.
Oh yeah, we got an update on that.
I believe.
Do it at your own discretion, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I do remember that was a good bit in the peak of Dr. T posting when our friend at Mailman Stalker was saying that the Amazon cut was the only proper way to watch Dr. T and the Women because it was in the wrong aspect ratio.
Well, it's, you know, there's a lot of movie discussion these days about like color correction and correct ratios. That's kind of where it all started from, you know.
It was Dr. T,
yeah. Is you know, is the Amazon cut even more authentic in a way because that's what everyone saw first, you know. Not really how that works, but it is, you know, you got to love film discussion.
Exactly. Also, I think that the vanity plate on his car that says Dr. T is now one of my most like holy grail level film prop memorabilia items. Like, I don't want a custom one made, whatever. If someone can like point me to someone selling that prop, I'll pay too much for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's for the studio.
It will be purchased. No, I definitely tried looking up, seeing like if there's any like Dr. T and the Women like cast hats or something. I don't think I found much.
No crew merch to be found on eBay at the moment, but there's some good merch. There's some good like not merch, but like film programs and lobby cards and stuff like that from foreign markets. Like I saw a French set of lobby cards for it. I saw this Japanese like film program for the debut of it in Japan that looked really cool. Obviously I can't read that shit, but like it looked the design was sick.
You'd assume it says Dr. T and the Women, right?
Well,
Yeah, he loves women.
it says
something like that. Yeah,
in English. I just can't read all the text beneath that. But anyway, I think that this movie is very special, and its influence on the podcast knows no bounds. Obviously, we are bringing back the award show that we named in its honor, the Golden Geres, next week on the podcast. So, you know, I don't know. It's a film that means so much to all of us. I'm gonna go 4.5 bullets on this one. I think it's like pretty strongly second tier Altman. You know, he has his masterpiece tier, and then he has that tier below that has like 10 movies in it. And I think this is one of them.
Yeah, and his filmography is so large. There's just a lot of odds and ends that I haven't gone through yet, especially around this era. And like it kind of makes me you know, I want to check those out. And you know, I feel like, you know, that is why this movie kind of got lost in the mix in terms of his filmography, because he was kind of releasing at a pretty rapid pace around this time. But yeah, I just think, you know, what draws me to this movie is it just feels so unique. Like I can't find anything that kind of mixes like this subject matter with like this sense of humor and kind of like Altman's unique visual language that he's playing with here. And I don't know, like it feels like a truly like kind of ironic rom-com. Like there's a lot of like, you know, the comedy is already implied in romantic comedies. There's a lot of like funny romantic comedies, and you know, there's a lot of movies that like you know, satirize rom-coms, but I don't know, like I feel like one scene I think of is like when he goes to visit his wife in the mental facility that she's in, and like she's like showing her drawing to the other patients, and they're kind of having almost kind of like a schoolyard level conversation, kind of like bickering over the drawing. And then, you know, that movie moment where she sees Dr. T walk in and she's like really happy, and it plays like this kind of like dramatic music, but at the same time you still kind of have like these patients saying like kind of weird stuff, and there's just like he's always putting an extra dose of like strange humor.
Patients fighting during all of that, like the one lady tripping the other with the cane is like insane. Like, so funny.
I don't know. I can't find another movie like Dr. T and the Woman. I can't find. I've been looking for years at this point, but yeah. So big fan of Altman, big fan of Dr. T.
JT,
I'm going 4.5 bullets on Dr. T and the women. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's really amazing, and sometimes it's like hard for a film that I feel like is so like gentle at times to like feel that way. But again, it's one of those things like just thinking about it all day like I had after the fact and like discussing it now, I feel like really cements all of the like mechanics that are going on in the movie that just like I don't know, I think really enrich my appreciation of it outside of just being like legitimately very funny and like interesting and unconventional. Like obviously we talked about Gear kind of being like perfect for Dr. T because of the metatextual level of him kind of being like the god of the male god of the rom-com and fitting this like idealized role. But I also think the fact that Gear is like a very notable Buddhist, I feel like also makes him like a perfect, I don't know, he just fit in perfectly for the Zen-like repose of Dr. T throughout all of it. Because again, it just like, it's something that makes that ending to me like so beautiful and moving that through pure like otherworldly just chaos and magic, Dr. T is flung into a different setting where the bourgeois trappings around him don't matter, and he's faced with something like real. I mean, obviously, like throughout like his whole medical practice, like I am not going to downplay the importance of gynecological health here on the podcast. That's certainly something I would never do. But he's actually delivering a child there in a place where like having a gynecologist be there is like impactful and meaningful, and it doesn't like necessarily play like a like the worst version of that would feel like more white saviory. It just like he's there and just like helps out and recognizes that like there are situations a little bit more dire than the interpersonal strife that Dr. T deals with in the day-to-day. So what more can you do but crane your head back to the sky, extend out both of your arms, kind of look up and smile and laugh at the absurdity of life?
On one final note, how fucking demented is the scene where after he finds out that his daughter is carrying on a lesbian affair, the daughter's girlfriend comes in for a yeast infection and he realizes who it is as he's gazing into her infected vagina. And he's just like, yeah, and looks at his nurse. He's like, you could do this one, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was just very, very funny. But yeah, that's going to do it on Dr. T and the Women. This movie is amazing. And thank you guys for listening. Join us on Patreon, where we have an extra episode every single week. This month, because of the new Paul Thomas Anderson movie coming out, we're going to be talking about a couple of PTA movies over on the Patreon, you know, keeping those exclusive to the hardcore clip heads out there. So $5 a month, it's worth it.
I have a final note on Dr. T related, just Dr. T as a whole.
Yeah.
Malcolm has brought to the attention that the Extended Clip podcast has been referenced on the Grown Ups 2 Wikipedia page for a revitalization project of that movie's reputation. I would argue that, like, next to Grown Ups 2, the critical reevaluation of Dr. T and the Women is perhaps our second biggest battle.
Yes. And now that it's self-conscious, like, no one run to Wikipedia and add us to it. Like, I know that, you know, it would have to happen naturally.
Yeah.
But regardless, I agree with that. I think that the championing of Dr. T and the Women is right up there with Grown Ups 2 and
I was trying to think. Is there
Spanglish, the works
that's a
of
big
James
one.
L. Brooks in general. But
Yeah.
people already love those first L. Brooks movies. It's more about how do you know in Spanglish that we really had to wave the flag for, and that we might be waving the flag for again sometime soon. Who
We'll have
knows?
to ready
Well,
our polls.
well, no, it's not that, but
Flag. You're talking flags. right?
oh, I thought you meant polls like voting.
Oh yeah. Well, no.
That's a
think
different episode.
I believe in more effective political tools than voting. So
Okay, yeah, you're like Jean-Marie Strobe in more ways than one.
yeah. I have to
Yeah.
watch one of those movies now. Now that I know they like Dr. T. I never watched any of those before.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
Oh, subscribe to my blog too. I know I've been plugging it a lot lately, but I do it a lot. So yeah.
Yeah,
Links
no,
in the
I
description.
enjoyed
And it's
the-
good.
Yeah, we like it too, and
Oh well, if Malcolm likes it.
and it's a very unbiased source. You know,
Yeah.
I like the Celsius rankings. You know, even
Thank
though
you.
it almost made me relapse. I am 1 year sober from Celsius, but
I got a peach vibe today because of
Ooh,
it.
wow.
I was looking for what's the like cola flavored one?
The cherry cola one that was on top. Yeah,
That was on top. I was looking for it at the like 7-Eleven that I was at today, but I had to settle for peach vibe.
Peach Vibe's good. The
It was
Miami
good.
Vice flavor. Yeah.
oh, Miami Vice.
It's just the colors.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
the colors of the can make me think of Miami Vice. Yeah. I'm a fiend for peach vibe, as he would say in that movie. Right? Right, guys? Anyway,
Celsius cocktails. Maybe that's that's something to consider.
that is a dangerous game. Goodbye, everybody.